Listen only mode.
Good morning and welcome to our Fitz webinar on St. Patrick's Day. We've got a little celebration going on and we have some very fun things to talk about today. But most importantly, we are selling the wow. I'm Mandy Majerik, one of the Fitz design team members, and it was a great little topic for me to talk about today because I love to add the little tips and tricks and techniques and different ones to show you how to make things very special. So I think you have a list. If you're going to follow along today, you're going to be able to make the corsages and the boutonnieres that I'm going to talk about and discuss. So what we're going to do, we're going to start off with our corsage first. And we're going to talk about the elements that you have, the pieces, the Fitz products that you have, possibly some different ways to use them, how to prep them, as well as how to use them in alternative ways. So I will be here in front of you designing. If you have any questions at all, please let us know. There should be a little box on the side of your screen that you can type questions into. We have Jamie from Fitz headquarters on with us, and she will be able to facilitate taking those questions and go ahead and prompt them and ask them to me if it's directed to me. So if you need me to repeat something, I can definitely do that. If you need me to flip my camera a certain way or show you something again, I'll be happy to do that too. All right, so if there's any questions, be sure to ask Jamie. But other than that, I think we'll get started. So we're going to talk about today, the first thing of selling the wow is selling such a cool corsage. And I want to show you this. This is the Athena armband, and we simply started, it's adjustable, so it can fit around the upper arm. It's to fit right up in here. And then we have some of these great acrylic chains and dazzle chain that connect the bottom wristlet corsage. So it's a very interesting concept, but it's definitely a way to sell the wow, and you're selling more than one piece at a time. So it's a great thing. So even if you just want to sell one bracelet, and this can be the upgrade, or this can also just be the one piece by itself. Because we have girls today who want to be very different. And when you have someone who wants to be different, they might want to have something that no other girl is going to have at their prom this year. So definitely think outside the box and think about some of the other Fitz products that you have, such as the Athena bracelets, armbands, and things like that, that can help you upsell. That's the key. To bring more revenue in so you can make your profit margins a little bit higher. And more importantly, be able to show people that you can do something different and that there's lots of different things available to do. So in your list, you should have the Athena armband, which looks just like this. When you get things in there packaged in Fitz packaging, on the back, there's a little plastic tab you can pull. You can slide out the black plastic. And I usually save the black plastic. You can see here, I simply save some of these little black plastics. So when we get to our cold glue adhesive, it's definitely a great way to keep your cold glue on something and not get your work table so messy. So you always want to save these. You might want to save the plastic packaging as well to wipe off the top of your glue tips. But when we get to that point, we'll talk about some of those little tips as well. So you've got the Athena armband. You also have a Color Your World bracelet. Mine is silver. It doesn't matter what color yours is. But you can see that we have the plastic flange and we also have the metal attached now. And you have this little ribbon rosette, and I'm going to talk to you about how to prep these products so you're ready to go. Because the most important thing we know about when we start doing flower arranging is that you always need to be prepared because you only have two hands. You've got a mouth sometimes you can tug with, but you definitely want to be one step ahead of yourself so you make sure that you have everything prepared so it can run pretty smoothly. Another product that we have in here are silver rose leaves, and I've already taken all of my products out of the package so you don't hear all of that noise because sometimes on our computers it's a little bit louder. But these are the silver leaves, and they're great to use as they are. One thing you can do is cut them apart. I like to do that. You can see that you can bend them at certain points and just take your wire cutters and clip some as little decorative accents. When they come to you, they are in a flat package. I like to give them a little bit of life, just like when you order permanent botanicals. They come flat in a box for easy shipping. Same thing for these. They come flat, but you want to give them a little life so you can kind of curl them different ways. Just with your fingers, it's really soft metal, so it's just super easy to bend. So you can see here how I've given that just a little bit of life by folding the leaves back and forth. So these are just our silver rose leaves. We also have our Infinity Plus pins. And these come 3 to a package, and these are great accessories to kind of bring in a little bit of that bling, whether it's in your corsages, whether it's in your boutonnieres, even bouquets. I have glued these right into the top of bridal bouquets and things such as that. So definitely a fun little product to have as well. Then we have our Celebration Accent Sprays, and these come in several different colors, but they're all bound together. And I love how, when Dan, the head of the company, goes and orders things, he always thinks about how designers can use them in more than one way, which I love so much, because a long time ago, these were really short, and you could just use them sometimes for corsage work, but now they are so long, you can even make a collar with them around a bouquet and such. But it's definitely a thought process that goes into each and every one of these products. So it's great that the stem is so long on these. This is also the same way. Once you pull one out, you can bend the top. They come flat, but you can always give them a little bit of life by bending them. Or you can simply get a little more mileage out of one stem by cutting each and every one and just cold gluing it or adhering it right to your flowers. So definitely a great product as well. We have one of my favorites today to show, which is the Dazzle Chain. I love this for so many reasons. It's very well made, and it just gives that bling, that beautiful, beautiful bling. So we'll be using this in our corsage as well. And then we have the acrylic chain, and this variety is called Colleen. The different varieties are based upon the patterns that you can see here. This is almost kind of like a little laurel leaf pattern. So the different patterns are different names, but this is one of the best, most useful products, I think, in the line, just because you can do so many different things with it, and there are a lot of this comes on one roll. So definitely a great product to invest in the different types as well. And last, we have our Parfait jewel here. So you can see there's different ones of these. I love pearls. For those of you who don't know me very well, I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, and that's where I'm coming from today, is in my office. And I'm a girl from the South, so we all love our pearls, so I'm very fond of this one because it has that little pearl accent right into the center. This is a great product to use because it's a keepsake. We talk about, multi-use keepsake things in our corsages because we want to be able to upsell for the value. So once we include this in our corsage, we're going to add it in such a way that we don't really get any glue on there. So that way, when the night is over, they have an actual pin. It has a pin on the back. They can use it on a lapel of a jacket when they go out, things like that. A great way to have a memory of the night. And not only for proms, I know we're talking about selling the wow for the prom, but this is also a great thing to do for weddings, for mother of the brides, because they love to have something to keep after the day that gives them that sentimental value. So now that we've talked about that, you should also have some ribbon as well. I've chosen this beautiful teal turquoise color, which is a very hot color for us this season. Different shades, hues, tints, and tones of blues are very, very popular for us. And when you get into the marketing with Dan today, you're going to talk about some of the things that have worked for you. So you'll hear other people's suggestions as well. So I'm interested to see what's going on with everybody around. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tilt my screen down so you can actually see my hand. So I'll still be here talking. You'll be able to hear me. But we're actually going to get started with making our fun wow corsage. Okay? So I'm just going to take this down right here so you can see my hands a little bit. Like I said, if you have any questions, you'll be able to type those into that box, and Jamie will be able to help you. She'll read them out to me, and that way I'll be able to answer any questions for you. So let's get your Athena armband out first. And like I said, we are going to prep all of our materials before we really get started. So that way we'll be ready to go. It comes with a little piece of tape across the top of this ribbon. And you just simply want to unravel the ribbon. You never want to cut these little bitty ribbons until you know that you're not going to use them anymore. I definitely don't cut mine off until I'm ready for that part. So you see it comes like this. Just for a little safety measure, I'll always knot mine a couple of times, pull it really tightly, just like so. Okay, so you've got a strong little knot there. So now I'm going to leave it just like that. I'm also going to get our Color Your World bracelet, and we're going to do the exact same thing. Today, we're going to use the Oasis cold glue method for adhesion. Of course, you can wire in tape if that is your method of choice. But I believe that the cold glue adhesive is the way to go. And it's the direction that a lot of younger designers are going in as well. So you can see here, I'm just unraveling that as well. I'm going to knot it, just like I said, for another little safety measure. Now you can always remove the metal if you don't want to use the metal, but I like it just because it extends my corsage just a little bit. But I am going to begin by folding these little sides in because I just want the extra length. I don't necessarily want to clamp down anything because, like I said, I'm gluing everything. So with no wiring, I don't really need those little arms. So I'm simply going to fold it down just like that. So you're going to end with something like this. Both of your corsage methods are prepped. Next, you're going to take your, I'm going to move these right out of the way so you'll be able to see what I'm doing next. So you want to get your colleen chain, and you want to, what we're going to do is we're going to pre-cut the length that we want to use. And I'm also going to grab the dazzle chain, which is this right here, and you're going to unravel that as well. So in this corsage, what we want to do to kind of promote that wow is we want to measure, pre-measure for a girl. So what you want to do is kind of hold this in your hand, and you want to think your corsage is going to be down on the wrist, and you want it to hang up to the arm. So you want to pre-measure, okay? So I'm going to hold about this much and go ahead and cut. Take my little wire cutters and pre-cut my dazzle chain. Then I'm going to take my colleen acrylic chain, and I'm going to measure the same length 2 times. Okay, so we're going to cut this one as well. Going to unravel a little here. So you're actually going to end up having 3 pieces of cane before we go any further. Just like so. Okay. So now I'm going to put my chain away. Okay. I'm going to tilt you back down so you can see a little better here. So I'm going to move my chain to the side. And we're simply going to make 2 bows. I recommend, especially if you're not very savvy and used to making corsages, that you definitely want to use a wired ribbon. It makes life so much easier. But the way I like to do this is I like to cut me 1 long tail to begin with, which we're going to end up tying the bow with. And then I just like to cut 1 shorter little tail because I like a lot of flounce in my bouquet, in my corsages and my bouquets when I get done. So ribbon is a nice little accent to have. So different people have different ways and methods of making bows. There's not really a wrong method as long as the end result is what you're going for. I love to have a few loops to actually glue my petals into, my flowers into. So I just simply start leaving a little tail to begin with, like so. You can see I just leave that little tail, and then I'm just going to fold over. This ribbon is the same on both sides, so I'm not having to twist in the middle, but I'm just going to simply make a quick little bow here. And if you're following along, you can do that. I would recommend probably a 3 or 4 loop bow on each side here. So 6 loops all together, like so. And then I'm just simply going to cut this with a little tail as well. I'm going to take my second little piece, add it in, because I like to have multiple little pieces coming up like this. And then I'm going to take the longer piece that I made and simply wrap it around and use it to secure my bow together. So you can see I just did just simply just like that and pulled it tight. I'm going to double knot it just to make sure it doesn't come loose. Okay, so that's the first bow. And now you want to make a second bow, because you're going to have one in your actual wristlet piece and you're going to have another in the satellite arm piece. So we'll set that one bow aside and we'll make us one more, cutting the long piece first and cutting one more little accent piece. And we're going to make the next bow. I'm going to make it a 6 loop bow as well. So that would be 3 little loops on each side. And you can make them all the same size. You can make them a little bit larger as your loops go. It just depends on how much drama you want, how much you like the ribbon. You can do 2-tone ribbon if you want to. Do 2 different ribbons in the same bow, which gives a little accent of element of surprise as well and brings different colors in. Okay, so then I'm just taking that big piece of ribbon again and tying it to make my bow here. And I'm going to cinch it tight. You can use wire as well. I just like to use the ribbon to tie, because that way I don't have any sharp ends of the wire to have to worry about when I'm actually making the corsage. So you can spread these loops out just a little bit and give them a little bit of movement. So now you have most everything prepared for your corsage. So what we're going to do is bring back our Athena armband. And we're going to bring back our Color Your World wristlet, so you can see both of them here. And now I told you not to cut these off until you knew you were going to be done with them. So at this point, there's different methods to do, but I want to attach my ribbon. So I'm actually going to lay my ribbon right on the top of the disc, and I'm going to pull the ribbon back around, and I'm simply going to knot the bow onto the flange on the design disc with this here. Let me lay it down a little easier. Okay. And you can cut the ends off if you want to, so it's not quite as long, but this is going to give me what I want to do. So you can see here that I just simply knotted it right into the center. Okay. Then I'm going to come over to my Color Your World bracelet, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm simply just going to tie my bow right on with these pieces. So these little ribbon rosettes to start with are pretty important when it comes to different styles of what you want to do with these. Now there's different methods to make this corsage at this point, but just for ease of showing you, instead of gluing all of those little bitty chains in the end, I'm going to make something a little more quick and efficient, because I know when we're making proms, we're all about being able to be efficient and using our products quickly and getting more to be able to be done. So now I'm going to bring these chains back, and they do get a little bit tangled, but you just want to take your time with them. Now, think about when these chains are actually going to hang down her arm. I don't necessarily want them all the same length. So what I'm going to do, I cut them all the same length to begin with. But when I'm actually attaching them into the corsage, I'm going to pull a couple a little bit shorter. And that way you can see when it hangs, it'll have different levels of hang. Okay? And then I'm going to bring my dazzle chain in. So I'm going to lay the first one down, and I'm actually going to tie my chain into the top of the bow with these little pieces of the ribbon rosette again. So you can glue these onto your flange, but I want to make it a little bit easier and quicker. And that way you just simply tie the knot right on top, just like that. Now I've got pieces coming out of the end, which is great because that's what I want. I want to add a little bit of that drama to the edge. You want to double knot that just to make sure that nothing's going to come loose. So I've knotted it tight there. You can see I'm going to lay it out to the fact to where I want some to be a little bit shorter than the others. So I'm just going to kind of make this one a little bit longer here and make that one, and then that one a little bit shorter. So I'm simply going to grab at the end. So you can see there are different links when it gets to the very end. And I'm going to take it and attach it into this Athena band. And you can notice before I do that, the way I have this Athena band turned. This is a little decorative element at the top. So this is going to be the way that it's worn on the arm, to where this is at the top. So it shows a little more of the beauty. If I had it at the bottom, I'm afraid that my chains and things would cover that up. So I'm simply going to make it like this. So when you're designing things, you need to think about how things are going to be turned, how things are going to be worn. So that way, it's ease for your customer. But this is definitely for the girl who wants something different, who wants the wow. And when you think about what you can sell, it shouldn't be a problem at all to sell the wristlet, because every girl will usually come in requesting a wristlet. But this is for the girl who wants to show out and wants to be seen and wants to be remembered. So you definitely want to have something like this made up in your showroom, so you'll be able to show people what you can do. If you've only made them with fresh flowers, then perhaps you have great pictures of them. You know, have one of those high school girls come in and put on her fancy dress, and even if it's her last year's prom dress, but she can at least put on a dress for you, and she can model this so you can get some great pictures. So you can see here that I simply have the two connected at this point. So I'm going to lay them down. We're going to work on making our corsage top for our Athena armband first. So it's all connected, but I just have my Color of the World kind of off screen here, just resting for a minute. So I'm going to bring in the one that I finished so you can kind of see what the end result of the corsage looks like. So what I've done is I've used some of our silver leaves here. You can see on the side, I kind of bent them up and made them contour. I've used orchids and spray roses. I think you had maybe alstroemeria in your list as well. And then you can see I've used this little dazzle accent here. And I've tucked in a few pieces of the Infinity Plus. Now, those are the long pins, so I simply took my wire cutters and cut the long pin part off. But you can see the chain comes out the other side. So you can just get really exciting with what you want to do, adding in all the different accents. You could come in and you could add, take some of those little dazzle accent sprays, some of the celebration accent sprays, and cut the tips off and actually adhere them to the ribbon on the ends if you want to. So you can definitely go as minimal or extravagant as you want to. Just make sure when you're doing these fun corsages that you are charging for everything that you're putting into your corsage. Okay, so that's kind of what we're going to go for. That's our end result here. So now we're going to get started by making that. So you can see that under the corsage, you can still see this plastic design disc. You want to make sure that you can cover your mechanics. And the best way to do that on any corsage is to cover that with some sort of foliage. You can do prom wristlets and corsages with permanent botanicals, or you can do them with fresh flowers. In my store, we mainly use fresh flowers, and that's what I had in stock today. So I wanted to be able to show you that as well. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with using permanent botanicals for wristlets and corsages. Just make sure that your customer knows that that's what to expect. Especially if they're really adamant about having a keepsake, that's probably a great way to upsell a few things as well. So at this point, we're about to get started gluing our flowers in, but we're done with these little pieces of the ribbon rosette. So I'm simply going to snip these off, not too close to my knot because I don't want it to come unraveled, but you can discard those little pieces now. So you just have something that has everything adhered to it. So as far as using foliage to cover up our mechanics, you can use anything that's a hardy foliage. This is actually bay leaf, but you can use ruscus, Italian ruscus. You can use eucalyptus leaves, seeded eucalyptus leaves, anything like that. When you're using fresh product, I always want to make sure that you don't necessarily cut the petal blooms because you'll bruise them, but you can always cut foliage because it doesn't show the bruising near as bad. And so these are pretty long leaves, so I'm simply going to cut them down just a little bit, you can see, and I'm going to give them a little contour at the bottom. So my disc is getting covered, but I'm not completely saturating the glue and everything on my design disc. So for those of you who aren't as familiar with this glue, or shall I say the cold glue adhesive, an adhesive is a permanent bond. So this will not come off. If you have trouble before of things coming apart, it's probably because you're using too much glue or too much of this material. When you first get a new tube of the cold glue, one little tip to take with you is that when this comes, it's just simply an open circle. If you take your little pliers, you can definitely just bend it just a little bit to make it more of an oval shape. So now you can see, I hope so, that that's a little bit of an oval shape. That keeps the flow of your glue a little bit less, because if it's just when you squeeze this, it will just start flowing and you're going to have such a huge mess on your hands. But you just want to simply take your pliers and make that little bitty pressure. Now don't squeeze too hard or you'll close the top of the glue off. But you definitely want to do that so it doesn't ooze out on you. And then one other little tip, and I know that Susie Kostick has shared this in her webinars as well. But for the ladies and even the gentlemen who don't need to have makeup, you should always have some makeup remover towelettes on hand. This is just a quick little Target brand, but this helps get that sticky glue or that sticky residue off your fingers. I know that we all have that issue. By the end, your fingers are covered with this stuff, but just take that little moist towelette and wipe your hands off. You can also, look, see, it's already starting to ooze out. I haven't even squeezed it. But you can definitely wipe the top of the tube off with that as well. So it helps clean the little glumps off. So we're going to get started. I'm going to go ahead and prep. Like I said, prepping is one of the most important things you can do. You can see I'm just simply cutting my little leaves here, cutting the corners off. And you want to do maybe 3 or 4 or 5, depending on how big you want your corsage to be. I'm just going to do 4 here. Now the tip to using this glue is you don't need too much. So you're simply going to take just a little bit and touch onto the back of your leaf. If it starts to come out like that came out a little bit too much, you can see there, I just take my second leaf and just run it across the back. So you get a little bit of mileage out of the glue. So I'm going to lay them down and let them get a little bit tacky. The glue takes a few seconds to get tacky up. And that's what you want. You don't want it to be so fresh. You want it to have that little bit of glaze over the top. If you have those little cobwebs of glue, you can just rub the two together like this. Okay, you can lay them all down. And then you want to pick your first one up and you want to simply add it in and hold it down for a second. Now, glue loves to stick to glue, and this is the same perspective. You kind of want to touch it in for a second and then put it back in. So wherever you want to place it, you want to make sure that you kind of touch it first with your leaf, like so. Pull it out a little. That one's already starting to get tacky because it's been sitting there for a second. And then I'm going to flip to the other side and I'm going to do the exact same thing. Just going to add these in here quickly. Pull it out and add it right back in. I've heard some people advise that you can blow on it just a little bit to get your glue to get tacky up a little quicker, and that's true. You can definitely do that. But you can see here at this point, just by adding those bay leaves right into this Athena armband, I've already pretty much covered my mechanics before I even get any of my flowers in place. So the flowers really are able to go anywhere that I want them to go without having to worry about the mechanics of covering them up. So I just want to pull my little bow apart just a little bit. And you want to remember that this is going to be the top of your armband here. Okay. So I'm going to simply start with taking my spray rose. And this is a fresh spray rose. So anytime you have fresh product, you want to make sure that you use your cold glue to seal off your moisture into your petal, into your bloom. So you can simply see here, I'm going to cut this right down, right to the little nub right there. You can see. Now you want to make sure that your glue gets on that as well. So I'm just going to simply take it, and you want to make sure that your glue covers up where you cut, so it helps seal that moisture in. You don't need a lot of glue, just a little bit. And you want to pick your position where you want it to be placed. So I'm just going to place it right here. I'm going to touch it in, and then I'm going to sit and hold it for just a second. And you can always, orchids are a great flower for a corsage selection as well. These are little white dendrobium orchids. They come about 8 to 10 blooms on a stem. So you get great mileage out of this flower. They come in several different colors. But I thought white would be a nice little complement today to keep our corsage pretty clean. So that's going to be in place now. And I'm simply going to do the same thing. I'm just going to take my stem off here. And you can see I'm going to add a little glue right to that point just to seal it up. I'm going to go up the petal just a little bit because I want to make sure that the whole thing is going to be really secure on my band. So you can see I put a little glue all the way up the back, up to the top of that petal. And I'm simply going to place this orchid in just like this. Okay. And I place it right on top, pretty much on top of that little knot that we had. And I'm going to make sure that I get some ribbon to come under and hold onto that top bloom, like so, just to help keep it in place. Okay. So we're going to have that there for a few seconds. Next, we're going to sit this down, and we're going to take some of our fun accent leaves. These are our silver rose leaves. Earlier when I showed you that you could sort of bend these a little bit, I'm going to use a couple of these. I'm going to use one as a full stem, just like this, and another I'm going to cut apart. So I'm going to go ahead and bend the little top guy back, cut that little leaf off. Then I'm going to bend the sides, and I'm going to cut those off as well. Just be super careful because there will be some sharp little edges once you cut these off. You don't want to have any accidents. And you definitely want to make sure that you take care of those before you actually get it into a corsage. That one was a little tough to do, because you definitely don't want anyone to get hurt at the end of these. There we go. Okay. So now I've just got 3 little separate leaves. I'm going to clean that one up just a little bit. You've got 3 separate leaves to add into your corsage as well as your full stem. Okay. So I'm simply going to add this right to the end. And I like to just touch a little bit just to wipe a little bit of the glue off. And so now I have it on my other leaves as well. Okay. A lot came out on that first little push of glue. So those all have a piece. I'm going to take this, and I'm simply going to find a little area and push it up under like so. And it'll hold in place. So it's actually laying on top of a little bit of that bay leaf, but it's also down into the corsage as well. So then I'm just simply going to come on the other side and add in a few of these other pieces. can see I can kind of get them down low. And they've been sitting on my little table here for a minute, so they're already tacky. So just some perfect little accents to add in. I'm going to add in on this side, so I'm covering up some of my mechanics where the knot was on this side that you can see. So those are now in place to make a fun little accent into the corsage. Okay. Then I'm going to take one of these Infinity Plus picks and I'm going to cut the end of the pick off. Just be very careful when you do, it doesn't shoot away from you. And now what you want to do is you want to put a little glue right on the tip here. And I'm going to have a little fun and add this into the tip of my orchid, right into the throat. So I just put a little bit of glue on the top. I'm going to pull my orchid back. And I'm just going to add that right down into the throat. I'm just going to kind of push it down in there and hold it for a few seconds. So just to add that little bit of bling, that extra little sparkle right into the center of the flower. Now at this point, you can always take another dendrobium orchid apart, one of the little blooms. The little petals are long lasting out of water. So they are definitely a great, like I said, accent for corsage. But you can also pull the petals and tuck them down low to complement the silver leaves and the bay leaves as well, if you want to bring a little more white into the corsage. We're going to do that technique on the bottom part of our wristlet. So we're going to use our Color Your World, and I'm going to kind of show you how to do that petal technique with that as well. Sort of the same variation as a composite flower, something like that. But you can see here that that's just in the top. You can see the spray rose and the orchid are right into the top. So at this point, we're going to call the top of our Athena armband done. Next, we're going to move that and put that out to the side. I'm just going to flip around here for a second. And you see we have the Color Your World bracelet. And we already have our chain attached into this as well. And I want to show you our finished product so you'll see what the goal is of what we're going to make here. So you can see here, I've taken this great parfait jewel, the great pin, and I've simply made it into the center because that is what I want to be the beautiful piece about the bottom part of the wristlet. And then you can see I've just simply added in some of these beautiful petals to pull my color from my arm down into my wrist. So you can do these either way. The keepsake can be on this one, or it can also be on your arm. It depends on where you want the majority of your weight to be in your composition. See, the best way to do this is simply to take your pin at this point. Now we still have these streamers that were attached, and we're done with them on this one as well. So remember, we just use them to tie it keeps our flange on our bracelet, but then it also ties our bow in and it ties our chain in. So definitely a great way to use these little bitty ribbons. So I'm just going to cut the top off just like that because we're done with that. Now, on the back of the pins, you just want to simply pull it out like that. Be very careful, but you have your little sharp point. And what I'm going to do is I'm just simply going to pin it through my little grouping here. So I'm going to kind of go under that design chain and make sure it's inside those little pieces of ribbon that we had. So I'm just going to bring it back up, and I'm going to twist the little hinge here. So it's secured. So now that is secured right into the center of our wristlet. So there are so many different varieties of these that Fitz offers. So definitely be sure to look in the new catalog and see those because they're just great to have on hand for anything. They have such a multi-purpose. We keep several of these in stock here in my studio. So now that you're at that point, we want to come back and we want to add in our blooms and we want to cover up some of these mechanics here. So I'm going to take some more bay leaf and I'm simply going to do what we did first, where we cut. Let me grab a little bit of bay leaf here, where we cut and add it in to cover up the bottom part of our silver disc. Okay. And like I said before, this bay leaf is very strong. It's very fragrant. Make sure, too bad the computer's not a little scratch and sniff, but it smells wonderful. But you definitely want to make sure that if you're going to use something fragrant, that your client isn't allergic or doesn't have any allergies to anything that you might use. So you see here, I've got this little glob. You can use the plastic to kind of wipe that off if you have any of those plastic pieces from where we unwrapped everything. If not, you can definitely use one of those little moist towelettes, those little makeup remover towels. But you can see I'm just going to add a little bit on each one here. Just a little dab. Okay. And I'm going to let them rest. And I'm just going to pull these back like we did before. And I'm going to take and cover that up just like so. You can pull it out. And you can put it right back in. I'm going to come on the opposite side. I'm going to put the two smaller pieces on this side. So I'm just going to add it in. Hold for a few seconds. We're going to take the next piece and do the same thing. Now you can see I still have a little bit of my silver showing. So I'm going to take one of our silver leaves here and I'm going to cut it apart as well. And I'm going to do the same thing that we kind of did before. And I'm going to add to bring that little bit of cohesion back in. I'm going to add a little bit of glue onto the back of these. Now you can curl these if you want to. You can give them a little bit of a curve so you make them come alive like we talked about, like so. So you can just put this on the back. And I'm just going to add this down to help cover up and bring a little bit of that fun element right to the end there. You can see. I'm going to add another on this side. And these are your accent pieces, so you definitely want to make sure that you don't waste. You still have 3 little bitty leaves left on this one, so that's definitely great use for another corsage at a later time. So now I'm going to take some orchid blooms, and I'm just simply going to pull the petals apart and line them up. And I'm going to be able to put a little bit of glue on the back of these and add these in for a little bit of color, along with taking a spray rose and doing the same thing. Now, using a delicate thing like a spray rose petal, just like any rose petal, it has a good little life to it. It'll last a bit, but you definitely, when you finish your corsages, want to make sure that you cover them with some sort of crown and glory or some sort of sealant to seal the moisture into your corsage. Once you spray that on, you definitely want to leave it sitting out until it dries. I mean, you can soak it, but you definitely want to keep as well in mind about your ribbon that it won't mess you up. But you definitely want to get that and put it in a corsage box for a nice presentation. So I'm just simply going to add a little bit of touch of glue onto the back of all of these petals. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of them so they're ready for me just to stick in, so I'm not going to have to wait as long. Okay. Now here at Fitz, we talk about selling the corsage, selling the boutonniere, and selling something else. And one little tip that I like to talk about is when you're selling to sell something extra. And that extra is what's going to help build your profit margin. It's going to help build your overall profit for the prom season. So you can see here, I'm just simply adding these down into the corsage in different places. I'm not touching my pin because I want that to be my keepsake. So I'm going between the layers of my ribbon just to add in a little bit of color there. So there's different things, like I was saying, that you could sell as your third option, whether it's a hair accessory, a bloom for their hair. If they're going to carry a purse, you can attach floral to the purse, to their shoes. Different options like that. One thing that I like to suggest, especially if at your shop you have a great brand, people in the community know your name, your packaging as well can be your third sell. So how beautiful is it to have this beautiful corsage, have it wrapped up, have it branded with ribbon with your name on it. So everybody, when they open this, will know this beautiful corsage. Not only is it a beautiful gift packaging, but also that it has your name on it. So they automatically know where it came from. If you're using spray roses and orchids in your corsage, perhaps when you wrap this up and you put the ribbon accent on the top of the box, glue an orchid bloom on the top. You get 8 to 10 stems per 8 to 10 blooms per stem. So you have a few extra because you're only using a few in the project here. So you can see that'll be a great little finishing detail. And that's what people remember. They remember that flair. They remember that little extra mile that that people go for then. And I like this little saying by that says, go the extra mile because it's never crowded. And I think that's very, very true. You definitely will stand out among your competition, not only with beautiful products, beautiful creative ideas, but also with your customer service. You need to remember that they fall in love with you as well as your product. So you can see here that we now have 2 pieces that are complementary to each other, using the same ribbon, the same floral elements, but I've showed you different ways to use the flower blooms. Here, you've used them as a whole bloom. Here, you've actually cut them apart and just used the petals layering in, where this parfait pin is your keepsake, so you definitely don't want to hurt that. But a great little project to do. Definitely, if you want to make these in permanent botanicals, this will be great to have in your store. Like I said, get you a high school girl who can also help with your social media, dress her up in a little bit fancy dress, and get her to model this for you. Or if you have young girls that work in your store, maybe during prom season when you know it's a busy Saturday, people will be coming in, have her wear this all day and model it. And when people say, oh my gosh, and it's a beautiful way to show it off. And people want to take pictures of interesting things and they want to post those on social media, Instagram. This is a great way to get your name out there. So any questions?
Mandy, if you will, take a few minutes and tell them how this is real successful in your shop, even though you're not in a very expensive area. Yes. Birmingham certainly isn't one of the most expensive places in the country to live. No, but give them some of your personal experiences, please.
As far as from my perspective, we have had great opportunity with selling or upselling the wow. Girls come to me because they want something different. That's kind of what we're known for, is going that extra mile and doing that little something different. Some of the Fitz products are great to do that with. And it really is the offering that you have. If you don't have it, you can't sell it. So you want to make sure that you have all of these different pins and accents and celebration sprays and things like that to add into your corsages. That's been one of the ways that I've raised up the average price point of my corsages is in all the little details. Because simply the traditional is a wristlet. It's 4 or 5 spray roses, a couple little accents, and you're done. But when you really want to get into that market and be known for doing something different, is when you bring in all of the other things. And believe me, if you just sell one, it's more than you sold before. So my personal experience is just having it so they can see it. And that way, if they fall in love with it, then they're definitely going to want it. So even if that parfait pen is going to add a few dollars to their corsage, but it's a keepsake, they're willing to do that because they actually have something to keep afterwards as well. One of the number one things that I have done that has raised my margin on my average corsage sale is simply the actual bracelet that it's on. The bracelet itself is a keepsake. So whether it's a rocker bracelet, or a Color Your World bracelet, all the different price points. I don't use those little granny panty elastic bands anymore. All of mine all the way from the simple pearl all the way up to the beautiful lace ones that Fitz carries. Every girl has a different thing that she likes, and once the bracelet is the starting point to complement her complement her dress with the corsage. So that's the number one thing I think is the easiest upsell that you can do that has worked for me the most in my area, is to use the different ones. So next we're going to move to the boutonniere, and we're going to make a boutonniere that complements our corsage that we just made, our wow corsage. So I know that you love this. And this is very interesting. You can see here that I have used this teal colored number 9 satin ribbon. And you can see on the back here, we have a magnet on the back. So many people now, especially wedding planners, we actually do a few little classes for how to pin boutonnieres on and such. Even for young girls going to the prom, sometimes it's not the easiest thing to do. So these magnets are such a great alternative to actually pinning on. And it gives you the opportunity to do something different, because doing a boutonniere like this would not be an easy task to be able to pin in. So using the magic magnets is a great way to get this boutonniere done. So let's talk about the products that we're going to use in the boutonniere first, and then we'll talk about how we're actually going to construct it. So you have this beautiful bouquet wrap. This is an Athens bouquet wrap. And when it comes to you, it's in a plastic sleeve, and it's on this plastic thing, little cardette here. And you can see that there's pins that are holding this in. And these accent pins are what you would use originally for the way this is sold. You can see it's very, it moves. And what you want to do originally with this is it goes around a bouquet. So if you have stems, fresh stems of a bouquet, you can just simply wrap around, put your ribbon underneath, put that on the top, and you have that bling that's added to that. We are very successful with using these in my store. We mainly do weddings and events, and this is definitely such an easy upsell for my girls. And when they come in with those wedding dresses and have these beautiful sparkle bands right at the waistline, I automatically think about these, and I have different varieties to show them. So definitely a great upsell. But what we want to do today is show you another way to use it. So if you do have more of these in stock and you make a wow corsage, then you definitely want to make a wow boutonniere to match. So you have the Athens bouquet wrap. I have one more of those Infinity Plus pins that I didn't use in the project before. So we're going to use this as well. And then you have the magic magnets. Fitz has several different kinds of magnets available, but you can see there's just one on each side. So this is 2 magnets here, and that's what holds it together. You just put it straight through the jacket and bring the other magnet around the back of the lapel, and it secures it very tightly. These magnets are so strong, so I have no worries that they won't hold through any type of fabric like that. So how we're going to get started with this, you'll need some number 9 ribbon. I've chosen to use this teal blue so it matches our corsage. So you just want to take a piece and cut it here. Okay, just a couple of lengths. And now this is where your gluing is going to come in handy. If you're a good gluer and you're used to it, then this will be an easy task for you. But if you're not, this may give you a little bit of trouble, but don't get discouraged because you're going to make it. So our bouquet wrap comes with these 2 pins. We're not going to use these pins, but I would definitely keep them because you can definitely always add them into something else. So we're just going to put those aside. And I'm going to tilt my screen down so you can see what I'm doing here again. So I'm going to take my bouquet wrap and I'm going to lay it face side down. So the pretty sparkly side is down. Now you can see here they have little loops on the ends, which is what those pins go through for a bouquet. But we're not going to need them for this. So I'm simply just going to take my wire cutters and I'm just going to cut those off and make sure that the sharp points get taken off as well. I'm going to flip it to the other side and do the same thing. Okay. Just like so. Get those out of the way. And now we're simply going to add glue to the back of this. So what you want to do is just take your glue Actually, I'm going to wipe it off before I start because it's kind of got a little bit of that glue on the end. And I want to keep a smooth, steady flow as I apply it onto the back of this. Okay. So I'm simply just going to add a little dollop at each one of these main points. Okay. And then I'm going to come down and simply just run my glue and hit the highlights of some of these pieces that move on the sides. Just making sure that there's different coverage points. Okay. If you have a few little strings, that's fine as well, because in the end you'll be able to scoop them off with some of the with a little pin that's left. So we're going to let that sit for just a second and get a little tacky. We're going to take our ribbon, and now one piece is not going to cover the whole thing. You see it comes to the edge. So we're going to use two pieces. So there's going to be a seam in the center, but we're going to actually hide that with our floral materials here in a minute. So you can see I'm just going to be very careful and lay this about halfway between. Give it a gentle little pat there. And I'm going to take my other piece and I'm going to match it up with the seam. And I'm simply going to do that as well. And I'm just going to simply press it down so it'll hold and adhere to this ribbon a good bit. So give it a few seconds. Now, this is not for every guy that's going to go to the prom, but believe me, there are some very savvy gentlemen who want to stand out among the crowd as well. So don't ever underestimate the gentlemen in our lives. If you look in GQ and you look in different places, a lot of the gentlemen are wearing cameos on their lapel, which I think is very interesting. It shows that some are open to some of the different things to wear. So they definitely want to stand out and match. So you can see here that now I've got this glued to my two pieces of ribbon. And I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to come around and I'm going to do a very close little cut all the way around the edge of my bouquet wrap. And you can see here, I'm getting it pretty close. I'm going to cut some of that excess off there. I'm going to flip to this side and do the same thing. So you can see I'm starting to get the shape here. I'm just going to do just like that. I'm going to clean up this little end here. So now you can see that you use just number 9 to make the background. Now, if you have any little glue strings at this point, if they've tacked up enough, you can come in. This is actually the point of one of those pins that I cut the head off to use as a decorative measure. But you can just simply put that in there and it'll pull some of these little cobwebs to the side and remove those. So you can see that now we have our great base to work off of. And I'm going to simply take a couple of bay leaves. The boutonnieres always seem to go a little quicker just because they're a complement. So if you want to save a couple of pieces from a stem, you want to save it for your boutonniere so it matches. The boutonniere is always such an easy sell for me because they want the corsage to be so wow. They want their boutonniere to match. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glue here to the back. Okay. I'm going to do these in 2 different heights here. I'm just going to stack up the leaves, you can see. So I'm going to let those get tacky for just a second. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to take my last pin and cut the backing off as well. Okay. So now I'm going to take and I'm going to stack these leaves up. So I started kind of towards the top. So you can see here. I'm going to take my next leaf and layer it down. So I'm just doing a layering effect with the leaves. I'm going to take the last one. And I'm going to simply add it like that. Give it a little bit of pressure so it stays in place. So you can see here, I'll get it a little bit closer. So you can see that the leaves are all layered right up onto the top. Next, I'm going to take one orchid bloom, and I'm going to make sure that I put glue right on the back. I'm going to snip off the backing so it'll lay very flat. So you put a little bit to seal the moisture in for sure. I'm going to put a little back up the back petal like I did before. You can see I went all the way up to the top of the back petal. I'm going to lay this right down at the base of my leaves. Just like so. I'm going to take our little Infinity Plus top. I'm going to place it right into the center of my orchid, just to add that little extra. Just like so. Give it a couple of seconds so it sets up. And then I want to pull the orange in. So I'm just going to take one petal from my spray rose. I'm going to add a little glue to the bottom of the petal. And I'm just going to peel back one of my little blooms and nestle it right down in. So you can see it has just that little pop of color added in. Now at this point, you could also add in some of your little accent sprays if you'd like. Now one thing is we need to make sure that we adhere this with our magnet. So you're simply going to take your magnet, make sure that you have the pieces that stick together go in the right direction. So I'm going to put some glue here on the back. And I'm going to make sure that I get it right on the center of my diamond, because I'll make sure the weight is proportioned correctly. Now, you can do this before you put any blooms on there, which might make it a little bit easier. But you simply just want to put it right in this back. Press down just a little bit. Now you can see I'm not hitting my flower. I just have my finger under there to help support that. Give it a couple of seconds. Now this is what you would put on the lapel, and then that would go on the back side of the fabric as well, just to hold it. So definitely a fun and interesting boutonniere technique to use to complement what we just made with our Athena armband and wristlet. I hope that you enjoyed these little tutorials for how to use your product. And I know that we talked about upselling and selling the third component. One thing I like to sell is floral jewelry as well. So I want to show you this quick little example. This is the Dazzle choker that I have here. And it already comes with, didn't cover up the back so you can see, it comes with this little plastic flange attached with the ribbon. So I simply undid the ribbon rosette and tied off my flange. I added some bay leaves down, and I had some of that grape dazzle chain left. So you can see that I just simply added the dazzle chain right down the center of the leaves just to add that sparkle. Now remember that this is a choker, so you want to make sure that really everything is going down rather than going up into the neck. So I wanted to be soft in that area, so I just added a couple of orchid blooms to the top and one of the little silver leaves here, and then I curved one and added it down to the bottom to kind of pull some of that factor back. But once you put this on your neck, beautiful and simple and quick and easy, and a great way to upsell something different. And a lot of the girls these days have some of those low cut dresses, and they're going plain. You know, we're seeing a lot of lace. We're seeing a lot of things like that, not necessarily crazy beading. So it might be a way to bring in a little bit of the dazzle, a little bit of the sparkle through a necklace. So that's one great idea. And something else, just a little interesting boutonniere I made. This is the Grecian boutonniere from Fitz, and you can see here on the back, it has a magnet that comes off. You can just slide that right off and put that behind the lapel. But I just simply took the grid and took advantage of this Grecian being a grid. You can see here on the front of my apron a little bit better with the black. But I simply just wove a little bit of lily grass up through the grid pattern, added a couple little bay leaves, a couple of the little decorative accent leaves, and then just simply glued some hypericum berry around the base, just in a straight line to kind of keep that graphic pattern going. And I added in one little pop of red at the top, just to have that little accent pulled back up to the center, okay, for the eye. And so this is a great way also to upsell a keepsake, something different. And think about it. The guys like to be just as different as the girls. So definitely an interesting thing. And not only for prom, but for weddings as well. Any questions from anybody, Jamie, about anything that we talked about today, about any of the projects that we did, or about the 2 little extras that I talked about?
There's one question about the bay leaves.
Okay.
This person is starting their flowers 2 to 3 days in advance. Will the bay leaves hold up that long?
They will. Mm-hmm. They sure will. Just definitely something just as hardy as like a ruscus or anything like that, or a seeded eucalyptus leaf or eucalyptus.
Okay, great.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this morning's session of Selling the Wow. I will be back this afternoon, and we will be talking about prom posies, and we have some fun and exciting things for that. So stay tuned with Dan for the marketing session, and I will see you back this afternoon.
Thanks, Mandy.
Sure. Thank you.
Just another minute or 2 on the poll, and then we'll start moving forward. Okay, just about everybody's voted. So this morning's marketing session is a little bit different. We call it sharing success, and really you're the star of the show here. What we want to be able to do is for you to share with the rest of the folks that are on here things that work for you and work in your shop. Jamie, if you can add the hand-raising column onto the attendees list. And what we want to be able to hear is what works in your area. One of the reasons I asked Mandy to share is she is in Birmingham, Alabama, not necessarily considered an expensive area, but she does have a lot of success selling the more expensive pieces. And these don't have to be, your comments don't have to be about selling expensive, but just what are the things that you do that are different at prom time that are successful for you and you'd like to share with the others, and we can all learn together here. So if you've got some things that work for you, raise your hand. We will unmute you and would love to hear you share some things with us. Okay, don't be shy. We don't want this to be like school where I have to start calling out names. Jamie, I didn't hear you, but whoever you unmuted, go ahead. Share your idea with us. Oh, Doug.
Doug, can you hear me?
Doug, do you have your volume turned up?
His mic is not working.
Okay, let's see. His mic is not working. Doug, go ahead and type it in, and I'll share it. Doug Bates has a very successful prom business in Michigan. He's actually taught a presentation program for us at AIFD last year. Actually, is an AIFD inductee this year. Those of you in Michigan know Doug well. He's been Designer of the Year, Young Person of the Year, and he's done a number of programs up there. And we follow Doug because he really does get creative with the prom types of things that he does. But while we're waiting on Doug to type in some notes, how about some of the others? What ideas do you have that you can share with us? I know we end up going through mine pretty regularly, and so we'd like to hear some other ones different than just whatever the ones that I'm normally sharing from time to time. Well, I'll wait a second on Doug and for some others to throw in their ideas. This afternoon's webinar, it's called Prom Posies, but maybe a better name for it is handheld items. As you can see, Mandy has a great look, a great style and technique. And then the marketing portion of it is going to be about fundraisers. It is by far the most successful technique that can really help you grow your sales. And so we'll be going through and talking for a few minutes about easy ways to have successful fundraisers. Okay, here's Cheryl. If we unmute you, do you want to share this? Cheryl Swint. Let's find Cheryl here. Okay, Cheryl, you're unmuted. Go ahead and tell us, share with us about your pre-prom event. Cheryl, are you there? Okay, well, I think we're having some microphone challenges today. Cheryl sent over that they do a pre-prom event. They invite both the boys and the girls, serve refreshments. They have their examples, their samples set out, and that it becomes a real high energy time for them to come in and pick out their bracelets and their bling. We talk about having events and having successful events. Real advantage of one of these pre-prom events is they give you a good long time to be able to prepare, to start putting your frames together, and then just before that prom weekend, it's easy to just go in and drop in your flowers. So Cheryl is doing this and having a lot of success, and it's becoming a very high energy event for them. Then Doug has a prom mom contest. Let's see. Tell the kids when they place the order that to enter, they must post a picture on their Facebook page with them all dressed up. And whichever picture receives the most likes gets a free bouquet for mom for Mother's Day. Great way because it gets the moms their free flowers. one of the things it does is it reinforces to everybody who's looking at it, don't forget about Mother's Day. You're going to get a second purchase probably from the students. Great idea, Doug. That's the first time I've heard of that. But tying prom and Mother's Day together, super idea. Thanks for sharing, Doug. Doug's last comment is he gets a lot of likes on his Facebook page. And it gets, because it's getting so many likes, it also gets them in front of a lot more people. Yeah, good point. Very good point. Okay, anybody else? Well, thank you very much for sharing. We'll be back at 3 o'clock Eastern time, again with Mandy Majerik. And again, we're doing prom posies or handheld things. There are some parts of the country that do not use bouquets, but then even for those that do, making the third item to be a carry item also helps increase your sales, and she'll show you some great ideas with some handheld prom posies for this afternoon. So thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you back this afternoon and again next week. Be sure to tell all your friends. We want to get as many folks on here as we can. And Doug adds that he's a part of the country that doesn't do posies. Get your friends on here. Get as many folks in here as we can. It is recorded. It'll be posted on YouTube tomorrow. And we do get a lot of folks watching them on YouTube. So these are becoming great and very useful tools. But we'd really like to get as many people attending as we can. So get everybody on. Share with your friends, your state organizations, your local associations, and help make these even more successful. Thank you very much. Everybody have a great day. We'll see you this afternoon.
Hold on, Dan. Candace, does your mic work?
I don't think so.
Oh, it works perfect.
It does?
I heard you.
Hear you.
Oh, okay. I have a couple things that I'm trying. I don't really have any proven results yet, but I thought I'd share them anyway.
Sure.
The first thing I'm doing is an online design your own boutonniere and corsage. My website's up and running, where you can actually go on, pick your bracelet, pick your flower, pick your ribbon, pick your accessories, and add them to your cart as you go. So that's the first thing I'm trying this year.
What is your website?
It's duchessflorals.com.
And what part of the country are you located in?
New Jersey.
Okay. And I must have spelled Duchess wrong.
D-U-C-H-E-S-S.
Floral.com. Okay, I'll have to try it again. It says I can't find it. I must be doing it wrong. Okay, keep going. I was just going to see if I could look at it while we were talking.
Okay. The other thing is that another thing I'm going to try this year is making a donation for each corsage and boutonniere sold to Project Graduation for each of the schools. So I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. It might be $1. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do, but I'll be circulating that information in advance to all the schools that I work with, because Project Graduation is really important to everyone. Is that something that you guys are familiar with?
Well, that's actually what we're going to cover this afternoon in fundraising.
Okay.
We'll walk through a number of steps and ways to really make that help your sales grow exponentially. So we're a big believer in fundraisers. It is by far our most successful tip that we share with people. So if you're able to join us this afternoon, we'll walk through all of that about fundraising, and tremendous idea. It really does help drive sales a lot.
Well, I guess I didn't think of it, but I'm excited to find out more, because I am starting to get ready to launch that. So thank you. I'm really excited about that.
Sure.
And my website it's Duchess Florals with an S on the end.
Yep. And when I put into Google, then it popped up on there, and that's what I was missing was the S.
Okay. So did you find the prom page?
Yep.
Okay.
So you start with the flowers.
Yep. And then the next page, it has like at the bottom of each one, it has a next button. So it brings you to the next page, which would be the bracelet page.
Right.
And then the next page is the ribbon. And I'm going to be adding other selections, but that's what it's hard to know, I'm sure you all know how much you're going to need of each thing and how many choices to give. So I'm trying to keep it to a manageable level. And then after the ribbon are the accessories.
And how's it working for you so far?
Well, I just put it up yesterday.
Okay.
And prom is not till May, so we have junior and senior prom May and June. I just distributed information about it to the schools locally, and so we'll see how it goes. But I did a focus group with my daughter's a senior in high school, so I did a focus group with a bunch of her friends, and they said they love the idea of buying their boutonnieres and corsages online.
Sure.
Being able to design their own and do it online. I guess a lot of them really do like to be able pictures, and I stole pictures. I hate to say it. Got lots of Fitz on there.
Well, all of our you're welcome to any of our pictures.
Thank you.
And we have quite a few thousand in our Google Docs area. We encourage you to use our pictures. We understand you're not in the photography business, and
right.
We are, so we actually encourage you to use ours.
Yeah, that really helped a lot to put the website together. But it did take a lot of time because I wanted to be very detailed.
Sure.
So anyway, I just wanted to share that.
Well, give me a call after we're off. I've got a couple of comments for you after.
Oh, good. Okay.
So from the rest of the group, I don't know if you've looked at her website. It's duchessflorals.com. It's an interesting little approach. Do you have any questions for her? Nope, shy group today. Okay. Again, thank you very much, and we'll see you this afternoon. Everybody take care.